brief on the LWCF for Dunn Memorial Park and what we're going to be doing moving forward.
Perfect.
There will be no public comment until after the brief is done.
I'm happy as part of this to answer questions. So, thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me back. Look forward to the chicken barbecue after.
Nice.
I heard, no? Chicken barbecue.
That's what I'm talking.
Enough chickens running around.
I'm telling you guys, barbecue. It's time to eat. I don't know what else you want me to tell you.
So I thought it would be helpful to, last time I came up, I just had pieces of paper and I talked. Now you've got the full dog and pony show because we got PowerPoint. So yes, let's talk about the Land and Water Conservation Fund. And so while other folks are coming in, so Doug Beck, Bureau of Parks and Land, I'm the director of the Grants and Community Recreation Program. The Grants and Community Recreation Program manages the Land and Water Conservation Fund, the Recreational Trails Program, the Maine Trails Program, and the Maine Conservation Corps. So my program as a whole is basically a one-stop shop for public outdoor recreation investments. To the best of my knowledge, Brownfield doesn't have any RTP, Recreational Trail Program, projects, or the Maine Trail Program is brand new. So there's opportunity, and I'm happy to talk about those programs as well. But tonight, we're going to focus on the Land and Water Conservation Fund.
Can everybody see this with the lights on?
Are those able to go off in the front?
I only have one switch.
Oh, okay.
So if everybody can see it, I'll leave the light on.
I think it'd be better on the eyes with it off.
On or off?
Yeah. I feel way better now. The lights mess with my eyes a lot.
Trying to get to Mrs. Green.
Yeah.
Start from the beginning. In the beginning. Let's see if I can do it this way. All right. Land and Water Conservation Fund started in 1964. Really, it came into existence in 1965. And in the perception of the reality that nobody makes more land, the federal government decided that there was an opportunity to create a program that could fund the investments in acquisition and development of public outdoor recreation areas. In order to fund that, they are using royalties paid by energy companies drilling for oil and gas on the outer continental shelf. Basically, that's the Gulf of Mexico. So all of the money for this program is not tax money, it's oil and gas royalties on the Gulf of Mexico. The fund will provide funding for up to 50% of eligible project costs. This year we funded project number 938, and I've got 11 projects that still need to be reviewed. The application deadline was the end of June. There is at least one project in every county, and 37 of Maine's 48 state parks and historic sites across state have land and water funding. And Dunn Memorial Park, right here in Brownfield, has land and water conservation funding assistance. If you're ever curious about the depth and breadth of the funding from this program for the last 62, 63 years, you can go to, I don't expect that you're going to remember that web address, but if you just do an internet search for Bureau of Parks and Lands, Grants and Community Recreation, or Bureau of Parks and Lands Land and Water Conservation Fund, you'll land on eventually the Land and Water Conservation Fund webpage, and there will be a link to this GIS layer. So a number of years, it's like 6 years ago now, 5 years ago, I had Maine Conservation Corps environmental stewards. They digitized the historic record of the program, and created a GIS layer. So if you go to this map, you'll be able to, each one of these little glowing dots is a land and water project. You'll be able to zoom into the project and see a polygon of the project boundaries. And if you click on the little light bulb in the middle of the polygon, you'll be able to see what was funded, what year the grant was, how much money went into it, and what was funded with the grant. And you'll see an example of that shortly. Basics of eligibility, only government units are eligible. So for the state of Maine, that's the state agencies, county, municipal, school departments, and tribes. We can only fund acquisition and development of outdoor recreation facilities. Every project must have a recreation component. So even though it says land and water conservation, we wouldn't be able to fund just a straight up conservation initiative that would basically preserve land. There has to be public access, public outdoor recreation. And every project must exist as a self-contained recreation area. And keep that in mind as we move forward. This is important. Land and water investments are forever. Of all the programs I manage, the land and water program is the only one that has perpetual stewardship obligations. So once a municipality, a state, or a school department, or a tribe, or a county has accepted money for a land and water project, that project has to be managed for public outdoor recreation in perpetuity, which is a long time. And there's a lot of words there, but basically it says, you know, all the investments have to be in keeping with the state comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. And if there's a compliance issue, there are ways to deal with that. So post the word compliance. Once a municipality has accepted land and water, the property has to be maintained to appear attractive and inviting to the public. Basically, you have to take care of the darn place. Sanitation and sanitary facilities, if they exist, have to be maintained. Outdoor recreation facilities should comply with all state and federal legislation. Properties shall be kept reasonably open, accessible, and safe for public use. Buildings, roads, trails, everything has to be kept in good repair. The facility should be open for the public at reasonable hours and times. And a land and water acknowledgement sign has to be posted. Basically what the program is saying, once you've accepted this money for a public park, you have to take care of this park and make sure that it's open and inviting and people can come and use it and enjoy it. That's the purpose of it. This is actually the front cover of the Brownfields Dunn Memorial Park project agreement between the state and the town. And you can, if you can, probably a little small, but I'll read the project scope. So this project is for the acquisition by donation of 7.02 acres in fee simple and subsequent development of a multi-purpose, and the language is, English is not, important at this time. Multi-purpose softball field, a tennis court, a basketball court, a playground, a storage building, access road, and parking by the town of Brownfield, located on Route 160. You can see that the total project cost, and this was in 1987 was the award date. Total project cost was $82,000. The federal share was $41,000, and the town had to put up the rest. The match, the local share does not have to be cash. It can be in kind, donated goods, materials, and services. And I don't know how the town pulled it off. I wasn't working in this position, although I look old enough to have been, but I wasn't. This is the easy part. We have, again, there's almost 1,000 projects all across the state. It's easy for a town to apply for funding to build something new. Every municipality in the state is challenged to then take care of things, whether they got a grant or not. Parks and public facilities open space, for better or worse, and I would say for worse, generally sink to the lower echelon of priorities for local municipalities behind public safety, education, roads, and things like that. So all that to say, is you're not alone in having a park that has seen better days. I could bore you for days about other sites. But this is an important thing to burn into your memory cells. So this is the project boundary for the park that received that funding. Everything in that boundary has to be maintained for public recreation forever. And last time I was here, there was a little discussion about whether the basketball court ever existed. It's kind of irrelevant. You know, if we go back, there's a couple of you folks, I think, were here in 1987, maybe not here, but you've been around, you know, was there a basketball court?
Inside the tennis court. It wasn't
In the
the full
tennis
court.
court.
It was in the tennis court.
Yeah. Well, so if you look at this map, you'll see there's, I should have a pointer. But if you look at this boundary map, you can see, here's the multi-purpose field, it's also a softball field. That's obviously still there. The tennis court is still there. The playground has been removed because of safety issues. There was a future storage building and horseshoe pits next to parking from Route 160, and then basketball over there. So whether it all existed or not is kind of irrelevant because the grant funded it. It's not unusual for a grant, for a municipality to receive a grant to fund certain things, and then by the time the project was done, some of the things couldn't be built. There's nothing in the project folder, though, the record of this project, that indicates that there was any problem with the ultimate development of all these recreation amenities. So ultimately, the significance of that is that the town has to maintain this recreation area with these recreation amenities forever and always, with the exception that eventually things meet their useful lifespan. Meaning, so for the playground was a great example. This park got funding during the 80s when every town in the state of Maine wanted to build a community-built wooden playground. And these things were everywhere, and the Land and Water program funded a bunch of them. Wooden play structures looked great, you know, a lot of good warm feelings about building them, but they're maintenance nightmares, and they don't last. And that's eventually what happened here is, you know, unless you rebuilt the whole thing, it wasn't going to be a usable playground. There's still issues with it. So the town then can request a determination of obsolescence, and a determination of obsolescence allows the town to remove one of the funded amenities.
They didn't fund.
But that amenity then has to be replaced. So I'm going to show you this is a Google Earth image. So this is a overlay of the project boundary on the Google Earth image of this site. You can see the black lines of the project boundary. You can see the tennis court kind of aligns with where the tennis court is. You can see, and again, you know, you can see here's the public access, but there's a building in the middle of it. Whether that, you know, this was the parking lot. It can still be a parking lot. It's kind of just a gravel open space. But the field's still here. This actually lines up really well with the field. The playground, I don't think was there. I think it was over here. Whether the court was there, you know. But that's the general layout, and that's what should be remembered as we continue the conversation. every land and water program, every land and water project has to be inspected once every 5 years by the state to assure the perpetual stewardship of and access of public outdoor recreation areas. So sometime this past year, I've been fortunate and able to, when I started in this program, I still had all those responsibilities, but it was just me. And I've been fortunate over the past decade or so to raise awareness within my bureau of the needs, especially of land and water. And so one of the staff members that I've been able to add over the years is a full-time project inspector. To give you a sense of the scale of inspecting a project once every 5 years, we have enough projects in the state of Maine that we need to inspect 2 to 3 projects a year, 2 to 3 projects a week, I'm sorry. 2 to 3 projects a week, every week forever. And every year we add more projects. So it's a daunting task. But Heron was up here and reported back to me and the town and said, you know, we've got some issues. And basically, these are the issues. The basketball court isn't there anymore. The playground, we worked to allow for that removal because of safety. The access road is blocked, and parking within the boundary is really not there because of the access road being no longer where it used to be. So there's some issues. These are issues that can be resolved. There are other parks in the state that have been funded with the Land and Water Program that no longer exist. The municipality sold the buildings and the schools where the park existed. Some places have paved over the tennis courts and turned it into a parking lot. There's any number of things that have happened. You guys are in the grand scheme of compliance, you guys are still mostly compliant. And there's just a few things that we can work on. What are those few things? The easiest and least expensive for the town would be to apply for land and water assistance next grant round, which would be the end of June 27, for project improvements. So what does that mean? You had a playground there, but now you've got a playground next door. You had a tennis court. Well, the tennis court's still there. You had a basketball court, not still there. You don't have to replace things an eye for an eye. You can replace things as a recreation equivalency. So what does that mean? So the playground was designed for basically K through 6. So I wouldn't say that you would want, the town would need to develop another playground because you have one next door. That seems a little redundant. But you could invest in something that is a recreational use, has the recreational usefulness of a playground for that same age group. What that is, I don't know. But we could discuss what that might be. So that's, again, that would be, you could get 50% funding for all the modifications that would have to take place to get you up to snuff. The other thing that we could do, probably ought to do, is execute a small conversion to remove the ineligible portions and add eligible portions. The next map will show you what that looks like. And either way, access and recreation amenities need to be resolved in order to regain compliance. There's a couple ways to do that. As part of a, whether you want to fund the improvements yourself or get a grant to help you do that. This small conversion is, I think, the most elegant solution to the boundary compliance issue. So the boundary compliance issue is in this red area, that was the original access to the park. And there's a building in there, and basically nobody is using this to access the park. Could you maybe but it doesn't make sense? No. Because a small conversion is the resolution of a non-compliance issue when the area of non-compliance is 10% or less of the overall area. So this area here is certainly less than 10% of the overall protected area. And to resolve a small conversion, it's kind of like squeezing a balloon. You're squeezing, making it smaller in one place and it's going to burst out in another. And in this case, my proposal would be that you could squeeze this out of the boundary, but add this, which is the entranceway between the town office and the old school. And that could go straight back. It already goes there. Most people are probably already using that. And then by adding this, the boundary would go straight across down to the road and up, and a small conversion is, the solution is allowed because the replacement land is immediately adjacent to the existing project boundary. So that's the most, that's the path of least resistance in my mind. Now, it's important to remember that this is your park, and you get to say what happens to your park. And it's not me to tell you what you need to do. I'm going to give you a bunch of options. And probably why I'm back here again is because I've given so many options that it gets confusing. And all right, what do we really want to do? Did he say we need to do that? Do we need to do that? So, I'm hopeful that this helps frame the options. So, in my mind, so the town already owns this land. So one of the least expensive ways to regain compliance is to apply for the Land and Water Conservation Fund to replace these amenities. So you don't have to be a new basketball court, it doesn't have to be a new playground. We can talk about recreation equivalency, what that might look like. You could renovate some of these other structures. We would lose this access, we would gain that access, and the new boundary would be like that. That's the easiest and the least expensive, from my perspective. Doesn't mean you have to do it, but that's pretty slick. Another option, so there was sentiment expressed that because there's already permanent stewardship obligations for Dunn Memorial Park, and since the town has already invested in additional recreation areas over here, and that there's a t-ball field, and then you've got this brand new playground, we could do we could still do a land and water grant to help you replace some of the recreation amenities. So this is where governments kind of are fun sometimes. And to you and I, it would make sense to, why can't we just change the map, right? Doesn't that seem like the simplest thing? You've already got, this is all recreation, you've already got these other things. That would make sense to be able to just change the map. Problem solved. We can't do it that way. And change the boundary. The only way we can change the boundary is in a conversion, which we've already talked about. That's kind of the exchange of land, or in a new grant. And in this case, in this version, we would still be doing both a conversion and a new grant. In this scenario, we're not just adding one access route and closing this access route. We're adding, you could add the entire public land area. This would be a donut hole. We don't want the buildings in the boundary. And then that would add this access. It would also add public parking here, which means we wouldn't necessarily have to worry about public parking here. So there's benefits to that plan as well. It just depends on, you know, how much you want to bite off and start chewing on. There's and obviously,
You already know kind of.
Whatever you add to the project boundary, that becomes the boundary that has to be maintained for public outdoor recreation forever. So it's, you know, none of this is going away. That being said, just to confuse you further, I'll give you another option.
Nice.
And another option would be to convert this entirely and remove the encumbrance on the park. I'm not recommending that because the encumbrance on the park protects the park in perpetuity for public outdoor recreation. But putting all the options on the table, you could convert this entire area. In order to convert the entire area, you have to do a Yellow Book level appraisal on the acres protected. And I want to say we're looking at like 7 or 8 acres here. Yellow Book appraisal appraises the land value for the highest best economic value. And once that highest best economic value is established, in order to remove this protection, you have to find new land that is already not in public ownership or not in public ownership being used for outdoor recreation. Has to be equal to or greater in appraised value. You have to acquire it and develop it as a new park. Now, the only way around that, there is a slick way around that, is to acquire land that is immediately adjacent to another Land and Water Conservation Fund assisted park. So in this way, a town and the county resolved 2 of their compliance issues. They basically eliminated 2 public swimming pools, baseball field, basketball court, might have included tennis. They had a big conversion. And they're like, we've just invested in the town in all kinds of new amenities, new community center, new fields. They're like, we don't need another park. So I talked to them about this other concept, which is acquiring land that is adjacent to an existing land and water park. In this case, the land was adjacent to a rustic state park. The town bought 237 acres immediately adjacent to a rustic state park and donated it to the state. So the state gained 237 acres to a rustic state park. The town got out of the conversion cheap because all they had to do was do the appraisals and buy the land. Because the land was already next to a state park that was developed for recreation, there's no need to do the recreation equivalency part. So hypothetically, you know, if there was another park in the region that had land adjacent to it, you could follow that same suit. I don't think you want to do that from what I've heard in the community. Everybody wants Dunn Memorial Park to stay a park. So, but again, just putting all the options on the table. You've all heard the saying, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And that's what this is all about. And, you know, this was a really short presentation. This is who I am. This is how you can reach me. And now I can provide more details to some of these fuzzy concepts that I just threw at you probably too quickly. Questions? Yes.
Could we put a batting cage in somewhere there?
No reason you couldn't. Well, you could do that anyway. So the batting cage wouldn't be the recreation equivalency of a basketball court or a playground. But that's a good point. So some of the other problems with land and water over the course of 50 or 60 years is people think that, well, they got funding for a tennis court, and so we always need a tennis court. Or they got funding for a ball field, and they always need, and that's not the case. The land and water program exists, you know, perpetuity is a long time. So whenever a town has new needs for outdoor recreation and is adapting their park infrastructure to new interests by the community, all you have to do is reach out to whoever's in my seat and say, hey, you know, everybody wants to play lacrosse. We want to develop a lacrosse field. Is that okay? And, you know, as long as it's in keeping with the original investment of the project, probably yes. I think, Renee.
So, thanks for this presentation, very interesting. So, if the town wanted to go with alternate boundary 2,
Yeah.
with a donut hole for the community center,
Correct.
that means the area surrounding the community center could become part of Dunn Memorial Park?
It would, and if that is what happened, then the project boundary would, I don't know if I can go backwards, would include